Very excited to introduce the first person to interview in the studio. This is Fredrik. What was your first ever job and what did you like or dislike about it?
I started as a door salesman. So I went out and selling candles and socks, knocking door. The whole agenda and what you did in your pitch was speaking about how you were collecting money for a field trip with school, but we were just there for private reasons. So it was I remember after the first 3 times, I made a lot of money, but I felt that I wanted to go and confess somewhere, I was super blonde and super young and were knocking doors and being super cute. And it's people invited you into their home and you had interesting conversations. It was meeting people, selling some candles. I didn't like it. I mean, the part of dishonesty, we did say something, but it was actually for something else. So I don't know. I guess that took me on a path of how to relate to money. It's I don't know. Interesting. I haven't thought about that in years.
So today you're now living on an island. What kind of daily practices have you picked up whilst you've been here? And what would you take away with you if you were to move back to the city?
It's I have experienced it because I've been traveling back and forth, and I stayed I think 2 months in Stockholm, and everything is just flowing more easily here on the island because it's less impressions and we have a vibe where people are more or less have the same agenda in why we're doing stuff, but the stuff we're doing looks very differently. So coming into an environment where you don't get that energy from people around, you're on your own in a much greater extent. Meditation has been, it started 6-7 years ago, and then it was just, this 5-minute break in the middle of something just to calm it down, up until now, going full in your body and experiencing your body from the inside, oh, how does my heart feel today, How does my lung move? How does, what is going on in my hip right now, And using the meditation just to be in your body. So it's a full-on adventure just sitting in meditation, it becomes its own experience, while it was used to be a tool to calm down, to go out and do more, and now it's it's its own little adventure. It's just so beautiful, what you've been given, and start appreciating it.
How would you describe what it is to be human?
So for me, it comes back to contribution. So the human nature and what we are good at, if you compare us to other beings in the nature, is we're social creatures. And we survive because we collaborate with consciousness. We're not just ants, sacrificing ourselves because we know that we have 200 millions behind us that is going to back us, not back us up, but backing the existence of that ant tribe. No, but as humans, it's, for me, the core purpose is the contribution. And I'm supposed to, as a young 20-30-year-old, to go out and be a bit radical, to test and try new things for the sake of the evolvement of humanity. And once I reach my 55-year-old, I'm there to give advice to my current me and say I try that, don't go there. Then I become the mentor figure. I can be that now too, but I do feel that we hold a certain responsibility for the tribe, and that tribe, it could be the family and it can be the whole, and you have to be there in all of them in a sense. Yeah, so honoring that sake of giving back. It's there's no space to be in your ego and have anxiety and feel bad and be depressed. That happens, but you better fucking stand up and do stuff about it, because it's not about you. It's about the existence and the evolvement.
Okay, so on this theme of self and ego, how would you describe the ego?
I'd say it's an incredible tool if you manage to actually relate to it in a healthy way of just seeing it as a tool. How can I manifest things which I, believe and feel that is truth for me. And I think that's also important, what is truth for me, right? Because we cannot know about other people. So finding that, and that's what I've experienced, it's an energy, right? You feel it, and then you try to say it and conceptualize it, and that will only work for X amount of months, tops. Then it will be manifested in another thing, but energy is the same. You feel the truth, you feel the resonance, but what it is will change continuously. So that would be the mind, right? And so then we cannot get too attached to it. I love the Pixar movie Soul, where they speak about being in the flow and the obsession, like they're so closely related. And like I think all of us have experienced of, where the fuck did my flow go? How do I get back to the flow? And I used to be, and I used to do that. You're looking at the thing external. It's like, I used to do that. I used to love that. So then I'm gonna do that to get back in the flow, and then it's just full obsession, and, we're not happy. It's just, so yeah. The mind is only for us to use to stay in the energy, which I guess we enjoy staying. Yeah.
People talk about getting back to the way things were, as though life was better before.
I mean, it's obscure, right? As long as they're going back to, like, when have we ever in existence gone back to how things were? It's silly, it's childish. And we also think that time was so incredibly beautiful and perfect. Like, no, it wasn't. Like, we were fucking miserable. We were just miserable in another way on a greater scale, Then we were dealing with our own, personal... There was once, like, early in my life, I heard a big successful person saying, like, you're always gonna have problems, so you can choose what problems you want to have, and that's success. When you understand that, It's like, yeah, we changed our problems from being a little bit obese, having a little bit of anxiety, not being fully fulfilled, trying to find a new path. I mean, I've been there. Until now we have a global pandemic, so it just changed the problem, and the magnitude of that sensation is probably much greater now, and that helps us to see things if we allow it that way, I guess. Yeah, so keep moving forward.
What do you feel is the most powerful force in the universe?
I love, like, it's as Osho says, the highest form of love is compassion. The lowest form is sex. Sex transforms into love if there is consciousness in there. If there is awareness and acceptance in the sex, then it turns into love, and that resonates a lot for me. And that's basically how I optimizing my life right now. It's like, how can I raise my practices coming back to intimacy and coming back to testosterone and these kind of chemicals, where it's at its core reproduction, not mixing that with another person, but that's mine to circle, in a sense. Holding that it's creation, and at the same time being connected with an unconditional acceptance and love for myself first. And I think that's where I am, and starting to tap into that's it's easy to love someone which is lovable, but starting tapping into, like, yeah, there can be love even with people who is not serving you, or whatever you can call it. And that force, combining the whole, cocktail of compassion, self-love, and then, sex as an energy, because that's creation. Like, I'm doing all these practices, and what I see is just it's work output, starting writing this book. I never thought about I would be a person who writes a book, and it's like, it just resonates and makes sense. And yeah, so love is the short answer.
What is the best advice you would give to your teenage self?
That's really interesting, isn't it? Then we have to remove the concept that everything is perfect as it is, right? Because now we're actually going in and we're changing the past a little bit. It's a fun exercise. And I think it would be to not add more. Like, if something is imbalanced, if something doesn't feel right, then remove stuff. Don't try to add more, you know. That resonates for me and the 16-year-old Fredrik. For some people it might be the complete opposite, but that's definitely what I had to do. But it took many years to actually connect with that strategy. I think we have a void. That's what's actually taking us forward as a human species. We want to see if we can optimize it and make it better, which is incredible. But when that comes from a place of suffering, and this void, we think it needs to be filled with something, and then we go externally and looking for that thing to fill that void, and it's an infinite game. We're just running around the circle and make it more and more bizarre and more obscure, thinking that, you know, by default we don't think that we can be happy. And like that's the oxymoron, the whole thing, right? When we understand that there's nothing that can fill the void, and all of a sudden it's like, oh wait, there's actually no void. That's what happens when you start filling it. It's like you're getting, there is no void, but fuck, I want to go out and create anyway, because, you know, I love this sensation that I have now of understanding that there actually is no void. You know, I do feel love for myself, I feel joy, I feel happiness, and there's creation and there's power. And, you know, from an external view it might look like, but Fredrik, you're just continuously doing stuff still, you know. But I do, but it comes from a state of lust, you know, and I want to try and I want to see what happens and experiment. And, you know, staying in the present moment has nothing to do for me with being passive. It's like, no, it's just being in every single active move you're making and enjoying that. Yeah.
What change would you like to see in the world?
So I want to go back to then what we're facing today, or what I see, which is in my bubble of awareness. And that would be, you know, balance the masculine and the feminine, I think. And I would love to see more ownership and less victimhood. You know, just taking full, you know, raw responsibility for your own experience of life, you know. If we can start seeing people and humans not projecting what they are feeling and blaming someone else for their emotions, like that's the most bizarre activity we can ever do. It's like, I'm feeling that, it's your fault. It's like, no. You are feeling it, period. You are feeling it. You take responsibility for what you feel. And if that means that you have to quit your job or break up with your loved one or whatever, like that's also your responsibility, but like own your own emotions.
Okay, so why do you feel that this idea of taking responsibility for our feelings is important?
Because you're starting realizing that the life is just a canvas and you can be the little Picasso of your life, you know. When you start seeing that nothing externally makes you feel anything, you're creating that. Everything triggers, that's part of the past, right? These triggers only exist because you have some kind of relationship from the past about that, you know. You flip because the person you love doesn't do the dishes or whatever, you know. It's not about doing the dishes. If there would have been a random person, you would be in their house and you saw that they didn't do the dishes. Like, it's all part of a past, right? So at its core, it's coming back to knowing that if nothing actually is the source of how I feel, sure, there's triggers from the past, but if nothing is the source of my emotions, I'm just feeling them myself, well, then I can choose. Yeah.